the president's latest budget would never balance, despite the fact that it's calling for $2 trillion in new taxes. House Republicans believe that we can do better. And that's why this week, the House will vote on a balanced budget for a stronger America. Our plan brings our books to balance in less than 10 years without raising taxes.
Welcome back to The World Over Live. That is Congresswoman Diane Black. The budget battle is once again enjoined on Capitol Hill. To comment on all of this, we're joined by the Congresswoman herself, Diane Black of Tennessee. She's a member of the House Budget and the powerful Ways and Means Committee. Congresswoman, thank you for joining.
Well, it's so good to be with you tonight.
Pleasure to have you here. Well, the House has passed its budget plan. Now, give people a quick idea here. This is not legally binding. This is just kind of a blueprint, right?
That's correct. This is a messaging statement, and it is a messaging statement to say what it is that we would like to see happen here in this country. Obviously, we're building up debt, and so this is a budget that would balance in less than 10 years, which is something very exciting for us because, you know, as the debt is growing, it doesn't help our children or our grandchildren. It does set out a number of our priorities on health care, for instance, repealing Obamacare. It does say that we will reform our very complicated tax system, so something fairer, flatter, and simpler, which again is economic development, and it helps the American people to see what our vision for our country is.
Now, what do you say to the 16.4 million people who are already covered under Obamacare? What happens to them, and what are you going to supplant this with? Are you going to put something else in place?
Well, we tell them that we understand that there are people who are uninsured, and we want to be sure that those who are uninsured and need insurance have an availability to get that. But we're going to do that in the private market. Rather than having the government take over 1/6 of the economy, we're going to put this into the market and allow the market to work so that it will be a patient-doctor relationship and not a government mandate.
So what do you replace Obamacare with? I mean, is it a bill? Are you doing similar to what you're doing with Medicare, where you're block granting this to the states?
We do have our own plan, and there's been a plan that has been out there for a number of years. As a matter of fact, even before Obamacare was passed, I wasn't in Congress, but my colleagues did have a solution for a free market solution for helping to cover people that couldn't receive insurance.
As I get into the intricacies of this budget, while Obamacare is cut, the tax revenue from it, $1 trillion, remains in this budget. So you're counting the $1 trillion in tax revenue, even though the spending for Obamacare itself is cut. Is that double dealing here? Well, what's going on?
What happens, and it is a little bit, I won't get too much in the weeds.
Don't go too far in the weeds.
It is because of the way the CBO scores and the base of how they score this. So until you actually change the law, you have to count that in. But once you change the law, then they can reevaluate what you're doing. So it is a difficulty in the way that we do our scoring right now.
And you still balance in 10 years?
That's correct.
Even losing that $1 trillion of tax revenue?
When you do dynamic scoring, and you show that things, as I say, when you redo your tax system and you take away some of the regulations and you see our economy pick up, there are two ways that you can balance a budget. One is more taxes and the other is to grow the economy. And our budget grows the economy. And that's really what's best for people because it puts them back to work, it increases their income. And so we have a dynamic scoring on ours where we can actually show that the kinds of things we want to do will get the economy moving and therefore more tax revenue will come in.
I've got to talk to you for a moment about the budget caps that have been in place for some time and seem to be helping the overall economy. Holding down spending on Capitol Hill is always a good thing. The defense budget this time is getting a $20 billion bump in spending, so it's going up. That's blowing the cap. Why are we blowing the spending cap on defense?
Well, the Budget Control Act, which was put into place 2 years ago, recognized that we cannot keep on spending more than what we bring in every year. And of course, when that was passed, we weren't in a situation where we are with our national defense, where we have so many things that are happening. Boko Haram, all of the radical Islamic problems that we're having, the ISIS. And so it is a more dangerous country. And the military have told us that they cannot protect this nation the way we're asking them to do with so many of these conflicts around the world. We would put our men and women in peril by not giving them the kinds of services that they, or the kind of equipment that they need. So we are then on the OCO side, or the side that is the global war on terrorism, we're increasing it on that side, but the base is staying the same.
But there's a slush fund on the side in the overseas contingency operations fund.
That's correct.
So that's kind of an extra fund on the side.
That's right.
That's a lot of money. I mean, how do you offset it? Here's the question. How do you offset that increase in spending?
Well, again, when you look at what will happen with our budget and the kinds of things that we put into our budget that allow the economy to grow, we can see that that money will be picked up in other ways. We do other reforms. We do Medicare reform, for instance, that then allows us also to bring in some additional dollars and cut some spending. So when all of that balances out, we really just feel that national defense is necessary. We must be sure that our men and women, that we're asking them to go into war, have the kinds of equipment that they need. And we're going to have to look at the other kinds of things that need to be done with. For instance, our Air Force is the smallest that it's been since the Air Force was developed. We have the least ships that we have had since World War II. So with all of those decisions that were made during the Budget Control Act, with where we were with the national defense at that time, it has changed. And we have got to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do, because after all, that is our #1 responsibility, is to keep people safe.
Protecting the homeland,
That's right.
Let's talk for a moment about the doctor fix that was passed today. This would cure the Medicare payments to doctors. A lot of physicians, they're simply not taking Medicare patients. Yes. Tell us what this will alleviate. Even the president is supportive of this.
Yes. A number of years ago, the sustainable growth rate was put into place, a way to help control spending. And what they have found over the years is it did not work. It was a flawed plan when they put it into place, and 17 times now it has been extended. So our doctors just live with uncertainty about how they're going to be reimbursed for their services. And what this does is it takes that uncertainty away, it puts a new plan in place, and it allows us to truly see the cost of care by doing this as well.
Let's talk for a moment about this new GAO report, Government Accounting Office report. It found that $1.5 billion was spent over the last 3 years in state and federal funds by Planned Parenthood. Now, when you see that, you think what?
Well, I think it only confirms what we've been saying for the last several years. And this report took 2 years to get to us. We asked for this report over 2 years ago. And of course, they've done the research that needed to be done, but they have confirmed what we have been saying. Money is fungible. So let's take Planned Parenthood, because they are the biggest provider of abortions across our entire country. So they get money from Title X, which are taxpayer dollars. And they say, oh, well, those dollars are only being used for family planning and other services that they provide. But we know on the other side of the wall is an abortion clinic. So that money is fungible. How can you say an abortion clinic that's in the same building, has the same lights, it's got the same rent, the same heat, and that money is not being used? We know now by this report that it is being used.
So what's the solution? You're looking for Title X reform,
Title X,
which is the funding mechanism here. But what does that mean? What wall would you like to see erected here?
It would say that Title X money, which was originally put there for just that reason, is to help people with family planning. There are some other services that they do in those clinics as well. But if you also are a provider of abortion, you will not be entitled to those Title X dollars. So that way we can make sure that if you're doing just this, that's what we want you to do, is do what it was intended in Title X.
I want to shift gears for a moment, talk about Resolution 139, that this is a House resolution you're proposing that would do what, and why is it necessary now?
Yes, it is necessary because, again, we see the violence with the radical Islamists all around the world. We want to say to those that are in the Middle East that are being persecuted because of their religion, that we are with them. Not only are we praying, but we're going to take action. And so what we're doing is we're condemning the violence. Number one is to say what is happening is absolutely not right, religious persecution. Number two is that we're going to take action. We're asking the president to send an envoy to the Middle East to make sure that the human rights are being recognized there. This was a resolution that was passed back in 2014.
Yeah, there was a Near East, it was a Near East and South Central Asia
That's
Act,
right.
asking the president to appoint the same special envoy, Congresswoman. nothing was done.
And he did not. The State Department said it wasn't needed, and now look at where we are. It obviously is needed, and we're calling upon the President to appoint a
And the special envoy would do what?
Well, they would go there, first of all, to say that what is happening is wrong, because that's been recognized in human rights through the UN. It has been recognized, and they're not upholding what has been recognized by other nations as well.
And they would be appointed to promote religious freedom in these various countries.
That's exactly right.
Do you support attaching our federal aid and, or rather foreign aid, to religious rights and human rights?
Yes, and some of that is already done. Kay Granger, who is on the appropriations, the foreign appropriations, she does make those decisions, and money has been withheld. And tying that, and sometimes she has said, and I've been there with her when she's told leaders, if you do this, we will not send your foreign aid. And money has been withheld, and it needs to be withheld even in greater amounts when this is occurring.
Isn't it difficult, though, to ask the President of this when at the same time we are making deals with Cuba, we're making deals with Iran, we're in business with China. These are religious persecutors extraordinaire, and we're talking about the governments themselves. How do you get from where they are to where you'd like them to be?
Well, first of all, I think the Middle East is a little different than that. Then we have radical Islamists who are, in such crude ways, taking young girls from a school. Right now, Pastor Abedini being held there in Iran, away from his family. We see the 21 Coptic Christians that were kidnapped and beheaded. I mean, this is devastating. This is not just keeping religion down in those countries to say you can only meet in small groups. Like, for instance, you can't meet in China in any larger group than, I think, 21 people. This is a different kind of religious persecution that we're seeing. This is unconscionable. And so, yes, I think, again, tying money and the foreign aid that we give to saying that you cannot do what you're doing in these countries and still receive our money.
Congresswoman Black, thank you so much for being here. Hope you'll come back.
Well, I certainly will. Thank you for having me, Raymond.